You're tearing this family apart for her?
No. I'm protecting my family.
You ate the food. Now you
But the
clean the
biggest
dishes.
failure of my life happened inside my own home. It happened in a kitchen in Oak Park, Illinois, at 10:15 on a hot Saturday night. My name is David Harrison. I am 34 years old, a captain in the United States Army, a husband, and now a father. I have spent most of my adult life being trained to notice danger before it becomes a disaster. But the biggest failure of my life happened inside my own home. It happened in a kitchen in Oak Park, Illinois, at 10:15 on a hot Saturday night. My wife, Lucy, was 8 months pregnant. She was standing alone at the sink, washing a mountain of dishes my family had left behind. Her back was bent. Her hands were red. She was breathing like every movement hurt. In the living room, my mother and 3 sisters were laughing at a television show, and I was the man who had allowed that situation to become normal. That night, I called my sisters into the living room and told them that from that moment forward, nobody in my family would ever treat my wife like hired help again. What happened next nearly split my family apart, and the person who shocked everyone the most was my mother. To understand why, I have to explain where I came from. I am the youngest of 4 children and the only son. My sisters are Sarah, Jessica, and Chloe. When I was 14, our father died suddenly from a heart attack. That event changed the structure of our family. My mother, Eleanor, became the center of everything. She worked, paid bills, and kept 4 grieving children moving forward. My sisters also stepped up. They helped with groceries, checked my homework, drove me places, and protected me when I was too young to understand how much pressure they were under. I love them for it. I still do. But there was a hidden cost. Because they helped raise me, they became used to making decisions for me. Sarah was the oldest and most controlling. Jessica was sharpest with words. Chloe usually followed the other 2. My mother had the final word. As a teenager, I accepted it. As an adult, I carried that habit with me. I learned to keep the peace by staying quiet. When my sisters criticized my friends, I listened. When they questioned my choices, I smiled. When they told me what was best for me, I usually let the argument die. I told myself it was respect. Looking back, some of it was fear. And then I met Lucille Hayes. Everyone calls her Lucy. I met her in a bookstore while I was home on leave. She was standing in the children's section, comparing 3 picture books like she was choosing evidence for a trial. She was a kindergarten teacher and wanted books that would make her students laugh. I made a joke about one cover. She smiled and gave me a better joke back. That was it. Lucy was different from the women I grew up around. She was calm without being weak. She listened carefully. She did not fight for attention. She had a quiet confidence that made being around her feel peaceful. I fell in love with that peace. We married 3 years later in a small ceremony. Because of my military schedule, and because we were saving for a down payment, we moved into the old Harrison family home in Oak Park. It was a huge Victorian house with squeaky floors and more rooms than any normal family needed. My mother lived downstairs. Lucy and I had most of the 2nd floor. My sisters lived nearby, so they were constantly coming over. At first, I thought it was perfect. Every Sunday, we ate around the same old mahogany table. Kids ran through the hallway. My mother told stories about my father. My sisters argued about schools, neighbors, property taxes, and whatever else had annoyed them that week. Lucy wanted to belong, so she tried hard. Too hard. She learned exactly how my mother liked her coffee. She remembered which pie Sarah preferred. She listened to Jessica complain about her homeowners association for 40 minutes. She helped Chloe's kids with crafts. I thought my wife was becoming part of the family. What I did not understand was that my family had started testing how much she would tolerate. The comments began small. One Sunday, Lucy spent most of the afternoon making pot roast. Sarah tasted it and said, This is pretty good. Mom's gravy is thicker, though. Jessica smiled and added, cooking like that is becoming a lost art. Lucy laughed politely. I noticed the color rise in her face, but I said nothing. Another time, Chloe saw Lucy cleaning and joked, "What should make you the official Harrison family host?" Everyone laughed. Lucy laughed too. I did too. That memory still embarrasses me. Cruel jokes become dangerous when everyone laughs, because the person being hurt starts wondering whether they are even allowed to feel hurt. Then Lucy became pregnant. The day she showed me the positive test, I felt like the entire future had opened in front of me. My mother cried. My sisters hugged her. Sarah talked about baby clothes. Jessica guessed names. Chloe promised her kids would be wonderful cousins. For a few weeks, everything seemed warm. Then the pregnancy became harder. Lucy's feet swelled. Her lower back hurt. She became tired earlier. She was still teaching 5-year-olds, still commuting, still preparing for the baby. And instead of expecting less from her, my family began expecting more. At first, I did not see the pattern. Then the pattern became impossible to ignore. By the time Lucy reached her 7th month, Sunday dinners had become work shifts for her. My sisters would arrive carrying handbags, wine, and children. Lucy would already be in the kitchen. She cooked, set the table, refilled drinks, cleared plates, wrapped leftovers, wiped counters, and loaded the dishwasher. Whenever I told her to sit down, she gave me the same answer. "I'm okay, Dave. I don't want them thinking I'm using the baby as an excuse." That sentence should have stopped me. Instead, I accepted it. I would help for a few minutes, then get pulled into a conversation, a phone call, something in the garage, or some little family problem that suddenly seemed urgent. The work always drifted back to Lucy, and my sisters never seemed to notice. Or maybe they noticed perfectly well. One afternoon, Sarah came over and found Lucy lying on the sofa with her feet elevated. Lucy had been standing all morning at school, and her doctor had told her to rest more. Sarah looked at her and said, "Enjoy it while you can. Once the baby comes, nobody gets to rest." She said it with a smile. Lucy sat up 10 minutes later and started folding laundry. I saw that too. I still said nothing. That is the part I regret most. There was no single dramatic moment where I made a decision to betray my wife. I betrayed her through 100 quiet moments when I could have spoken and chose comfort instead. Then came the Saturday dinner. Chicago had been trapped under heavy summer heat all week. The old house held warmth like an oven, especially near the kitchen. My 3 sisters came with their families. My mother wanted a big meal, and Lucy insisted she could handle it. By 8 o'clock, the table looked like a disaster zone. There were greasy plates, serving bowls, wine glasses, roasting pans, sticky utensils, napkins, and half-eaten food everywhere. My sisters pushed back from the table and walked into the air-conditioned living room. My mother followed. Their husbands took the kids outside for a few minutes. Lucy began clearing the table. I carried a few dishes to the kitchen, then remembered the rattling noise my truck had been making. I told Lucy I was going to check it quickly. 5 minutes, I said. It became 20. And that is how people lose important moments. Not through one giant decision, but through small delays that feel harmless. When I came back inside, the hallway was dim and quiet. Then I heard water running. I walked toward the kitchen. Lucy was standing at the sink. She was so tired that she did not hear me enter. Her stomach was pressed against the granite counter, because it was the only way she could reach the faucet. Her shoulders were rounded. Her hair had fallen loose around her face. Her hands moved slowly through the dirty water. She stopped every few seconds. Once, she put a hand against her lower back and closed her eyes. From the living room came a burst of television laughter. Then I heard Jessica laughing too. The contrast made me feel sick. I looked at the clock. 10:15 p.m. Lucy had been working almost continuously for hours. A coffee mug slipped from her hand and hit the sink. The handle chipped. She did not even react. She just gripped the counter and lowered her head. Her shoulders trembled. That image changed something in me. For years, I had told myself Lucy was fine, because she said she was fine. I told myself my sisters were only joking, because they smiled when they insulted her. I told myself family habits were harmless, because they had existed before Lucy arrived. But none of that mattered anymore. My pregnant wife was exhausted and hurting while 4 healthy adults sat 10 yards away doing nothing. I walked toward her. She looked up quickly and tried to smile. "Hey," she said. "I'm almost done. Almost done." That sentence broke my heart. I turned off the faucet. "No," I said. "You're done now." She looked confused. "Dave, it's okay." "No." "Go sit down." Her eyes immediately moved toward the hallway. That tiny movement told me more than words could have. She was not worried about the dishes. She was worried about my family's reaction. I asked her quietly, "Are you afraid they'll be angry if you stop?" She did not answer. She did not need to. I dried my hands and pulled out my phone. Then I called Sarah. I could hear her phone ringing from the living room. She answered with an irritated, "Dave, where are you?" "Come to the living room," I said. "Bring Jessica and Chloe." There was a pause. "What's wrong? Just come." I hung up. Lucy grabbed my arm. "Please don't make this a big thing." I looked at her swollen feet, then at the dishes, then at her face. "It already is a big thing," I said. I walked into the living room. My mother muted the television. Sarah came in with her arms crossed. Jessica looked annoyed. Chloe looked confused. My mother studied my face. What happened? For a second, I was 14 again. I felt the old instinct telling me to soften my voice, smile, make a joke, avoid conflict. Then I remembered Lucy at the sink. I stood in front of the coffee table and looked at the women who had raised me. "From tonight forward," I said, "nobody in this family treats my wife like hired help again." The room became completely silent. Sarah stared at me. Jessica slowly lowered her wine glass. Chloe blinked twice. My mother's expression hardened, and I knew there was no going back. My mother was the first person to speak. "Excuse me." Her voice was quiet, which was worse than shouting. When I was a kid, that tone could stop me in the middle of a sentence. This time, I held her gaze. I said, "Lucy is not the servant of this family." Jessica laughed once, sharply. "Oh, come on, Dave." She washed dishes. "You're acting like we forced her into hard labor." Chloe leaned forward. She offered to help. She always offers. Sarah stood. "We worked in this house our entire lives," she said. "We cooked. We cleaned. We helped Mom after Dad died. We practically raised you. Now you're going to lecture us because your wife washed dinner plates." There it was. The debt. My sisters had done real things for me when we were young, and somewhere along the way, gratitude had turned into a lifetime contract. "I know what you did for me," I said. "I will always be grateful. Then show some respect." My mother answered. "I can respect them without letting them use Lucy." Sarah's face changed. "Use her?" "Yes." I pointed toward the kitchen. "She is 8 months pregnant. She worked all week. She cooked most of this dinner. She served everyone. She cleared the table. And now she is standing alone in a hot kitchen, cleaning your mess while you sit in here watching television." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Nobody told her she had to do that. That's not true." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" I said, "It's not true." "Maybe you didn't say the words, 'Lucy, you must wash our dishes.' But every time you come here, you sit down and wait for her to do everything. If she slows down, somebody makes a comment. If she rests, somebody jokes about pregnancy not being an excuse. If she cooks, somebody compares her food to Mom's. You trained her to believe that being accepted here depends on how useful she is. Nobody answered. I had not planned that sentence. But once I said it, I knew it was true. Chloe crossed her arms. She never complained. That hit me harder than anything else they had said, because Lucy had never complained, and I had used her silence as permission. She shouldn't have to collapse before we notice she needs help, I said. My mother looked toward the hallway. The kitchen had become quiet. Lucy was listening. Sarah stepped closer to me. You are creating a family crisis over nothing. No, I said. I'm finally admitting there has been a crisis for a long time. Jessica gave me a cold smile. So what now? We need written instructions before we visit. Should we sign a chore chart? If that's what it takes for adults to clean up after themselves. Maybe. That wiped the smile off her face. My mother put the remote on the table. David, your sisters sacrificed for you. I know. You owe them loyalty. I owe them gratitude. I do not owe them control over my marriage. That sentence changed the room. My mother looked as if I had slapped the table. Sarah's face went red. Then she said the thing I will never forget. You're really tearing your family apart for a woman. For a woman. Not for Lucy. Not for my wife. Not for the mother of my child. For a woman. Something inside me became very calm. I'm not tearing my family apart for a woman, I said. I'm protecting my family. Sarah frowned. This is your family. I shook my head. You are my sisters. Mom is my mother. I love you. But Lucy and our baby are the family I am responsible for first. There was a sound behind me. Lucy stood in the doorway. She had removed her apron. Her hands were clasped over her stomach. Her eyes were red. Dave, she whispered. Please. You don't have to fight. I walked to her and took her hands. They were cold and damp. I do have to fight for you, I said. I should have done it much sooner. A tear moved down her cheek. I just wanted them to like me. That sentence nearly destroyed me. Behind us, no one spoke. Then my mother stood. For a moment, I thought she was going to explode. Instead, she walked toward Lucy and took the dish towel from Lucy's shoulder. Go sit down, she said. Lucy looked startled. Mrs. Harrison, I can finish. My mother shook her head. No, you're finished. Then she turned toward my sisters. And you three are coming with me. Jessica stared at her. What? To the kitchen. Sarah looked betrayed. Mom, David just called us. I heard him, my mother said. And I also heard enough truth in what he said to make me uncomfortable. That silenced everyone. My mother pointed toward the hallway. You ate. You used the plates. You can help clean them. Jessica groaned. Chloe looked at the floor. Sarah did not move. My mother's voice became harder. Now, Sarah, or Sunday dinner can happen at your house from now on. That worked. One by one, my sisters walked past us toward the kitchen. A minute later, I heard water running again. But this time, Lucy was not standing at the sink. She was sitting on the sofa with her feet up, while my mother and sisters argued over who had to scrub the roasting pan. I thought the problem was solved. I was wrong. The next morning, Lucy woke before me. When I went downstairs, she was sitting at the kitchen table staring at her phone. Her face had that same careful expression she wore whenever she was trying not to create conflict. What is it? I asked. Nothing. I sat across from her. Lucy. She slowly turned the phone around. There were 12 unread messages. Most were from my sisters. Sarah had written, I hope you're happy. You've changed our brother. Jessica had written, this whole performance was unnecessary. Chloe had written, you could have talked to us instead of making Dave attack everyone. I felt anger rise again. Then Lucy said something that made the situation much worse. These aren't the first messages. I looked at her. What do you mean? She unlocked another thread. And that was when I discovered that what I had seen in the kitchen was only the visible part of the problem. Lucy hesitated before giving me the phone. "I didn't show you because I knew it would upset you," she said. The message history went back months. Most of the texts looked harmless if you read them one at a time. That was what made them so effective. Sarah, we're coming Sunday. Mom wants the dining room looking nice. Jessica, can you make the chocolate cake? Store, bought tastes cheap. Chloe. The kids made a mess last time. You'll probably want to vacuum before Mom notices. Sarah. Don't forget Mom hates water spots on the wine glasses. Jessica, you're lucky you have a flexible teacher schedule. Some of us have real deadlines. There were smile emojis after some of the messages. Little hearts after others. Passive aggression wrapped in politeness. Then I found messages from the week Lucy had spent a night in the hospital for dehydration. Sarah had written the next morning, "Glad you're okay. Are we still doing dinner Sunday?" Lucy had replied, "I may need to rest." Sarah answered, "Of course. Maybe just make something simple." Something simple. Even after a hospital visit, the assumption was that Lucy would cook. I put the phone down. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lucy stared at her hands, because every time they asked for something, it seemed small. A cake, a table, a favor, a ride for your mom, watching close kids for 20 minutes. And none of it sounded terrible by itself. But altogether, she said. I felt like I was working for an approval I never actually received. That sentence hurt more than the argument the night before. I asked her to show me everything, not because I wanted ammunition, because I finally wanted the truth. Over the next hour, we went through months of messages. There were comments about her clothes, her cooking, the nursery, our finances, and even the way she planned to feed the baby. Jessica had sent her an article about women who lose themselves after motherhood, and added, "Don't become one of those wives who makes the husband do everything." Chloe had joked that I would eventually miss real Harrison cooking. Sarah had repeatedly reminded Lucy that Mom had standards. My mother's messages were different. But she was demanding sometimes, but she also thanked Lucy. She asked about doctor appointments. She offered rides. The problem was not that my mother had been innocent. She had benefited from Lucy's work. But the cruelty seemed to come mostly from my sisters. I felt ashamed that I had missed it. Then I noticed something else. Whenever Lucy tried to say no, one of my sisters mentioned me. Dave always loved Sunday dinners. Dave hates family drama. Dave has enough stress with the army. They had been using my name to keep her compliant. That made the betrayal personal in a new way. I took screenshots and sent them to myself with Lucy's permission. Then I did something my sisters did not expect. I did not call them. I did not argue. I did not send an angry paragraph. I waited. That afternoon, Sarah created a new family group chat without Lucy in it. She forgot that my mother was sitting in our kitchen when the messages started arriving on her phone. My mother read the first one and went quiet. Then she handed me the phone. Sarah had written, "We need to get David away from her long enough to make him understand what she's doing." Jessica responded, "She's isolating him from us." Classic move. Chloe added, "Maybe after the baby comes he'll wake up." I stared at the screen. Lucy had not isolated me from anyone. If anything, she had spent 3 years trying to pull me closer to my family. My mother read the next message over my shoulder. "Sarah, Mom, you need to tell him the house belongs to you, and she doesn't get to dictate how things work there." My mother's mouth tightened. I expected her to defend my sisters. Instead, she typed one sentence. "She is not dictating my house. She is asking to be treated like a human being." The chat went silent for almost a minute. Then Jessica replied, "Whose side are you on?" My mother looked at me. For the first time since the argument, I saw something in her expression that was not anger. I did this too, she said quietly. What? She sat down. When your father was alive, his mother expected me to host everything. I cooked while pregnant. I cleaned while sick. I smiled because if I complained, I was called dramatic. Lucy looked at her. My mother continued. I promised myself my daughters would never be treated that way. She laughed once. But there was no humor in it, and somehow I taught them that another woman should be. That was the first apology. Not a perfect one, but a real one. My mother looked at Lucy. I'm sorry. Lucy's eyes filled with tears. She did not say, "It's okay." I was proud of her for that. She only said, "Thank you." That evening, I made a decision. Lucy and I were moving out. We had enough saved for a modest townhouse. It was not the dream house we had imagined, but I no longer cared about square footage or interest rates. I cared about peace. When I told my mother, she nodded. When? As soon as possible. She looked sad, but she did not ask us to stay. I understand. My sisters found out 2 days later, and instead of calming down, they declared war. Sarah called first. So that's it? She demanded. Ton. You're leaving, Mom, because Lucy had one bad night. I put the phone on speaker so Lucy could hear. We are moving because we need our own home. You already have a home. No. We have rooms in Mom's house. Dad wanted that house to stay in the family. It is staying in the family. Mom lives there. Sarah paused, then changed tactics. You know she'll be alone. Mom is healthy, and all 3 of you live within 10 miles. Silence. That answer exposed something none of them wanted to admit. They wanted Lucy and me to carry the daily responsibility, while they kept the authority. Jessica tried next. She posted a vague message on social media about people who forget who raised them after they get married. She did not name me. She did not need to. Relatives began calling. An aunt asked if Lucy was forcing me to cut off my family. A cousin told me Sarah said I had become unstable. I did something I had rarely done before. I refused to defend myself to everyone. I told each person the same thing. Lucy and I are moving because we are starting our own family. Anyone who respects us is welcome in our lives. No long argument, no gossip, no counterattack. That made my sisters even angrier, because they had nothing dramatic to use against me. Then came the baby shower. My mother had originally planned to host it at the house. Lucy had been excited about it before the fight. A week after we announced the move, Sarah sent Lucy a schedule, not an invitation, a schedule. It listed what time Lucy should arrive, what desserts she should prepare, how many chairs she should arrange, and which decorations she should buy. Lucy stared at the message. She wants me to work at my own baby shower. That was the moment my anger became almost funny. I called Sarah. We're canceling. What? The shower. We won't be there. You can't cancel. People are invited. Then enjoy the party. She exploded. You are humiliating us. No, Sarah. You are experiencing a consequence. I had learned something important. A boundary without a consequence is just a suggestion. So we stopped suggesting. We signed the paperwork on a small townhouse 15 minutes away. It had 2 bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, a tiny backyard, and absolutely no family history inside its walls. It felt perfect. My army friends helped us move. My mother came too. My sisters did not. On the last day, I carried a box of Lucy's books down the stairs and found Sarah standing in the hallway. She had used her key to enter. She looked at the boxes. You're really doing this? Wes! She stared at me for a long time. You think you're better than us now? No. You think Lucy won? I set the box down. This isn't a competition. It is to her. No, Sarah. It is to you. Her face tightened. I continued. You keep talking about Lucy taking me away, but she never asked me to leave this house. She never asked me to stop seeing you. She never asked me to cancel dinners. She spent years trying to make you happy. Sarah looked away. You don't understand. Then explain it. For the first time, she had no immediate answer. Finally, she said, after Dad died, we gave up everything. Mom worked. We worked. We raised you. Then you grew up, went away, came back successful, got married. And suddenly, she became the most important person in your life. There it was. Not dishes. Not tradition. Jealousy. I felt some of my anger soften, but not enough to erase the damage. You were important to me before Lucy. You are important now. But being important does not mean you get ownership. Sarah's eyes filled, though she refused to cry. You don't know what it was like. You're right. I was the kid being protected. I didn't understand what you sacrificed. She looked at me. But you don't get to collect payment from my wife. She said nothing. I picked up the box and left. 2 weeks later, Lucy went into labor early in the morning. At the hospital, everything else became small. The family arguments disappeared behind bright lights, nurses, and monitors, forms, and hours that felt both endless and incredibly fast. Our son, Benjamin, was born healthy. When the nurse placed him in Lucy's arms, I cried harder than I had cried since my father died. My mother was the first family member we invited to visit. She walked in carrying no opinions, no instructions, no criticism, just flowers. She kissed Lucy's forehead, looked at Benjamin, and cried. Then my phone started vibrating. Sarah, Jessica, Chloe, all asking when they could come. I looked at Lucy. She looked tired, happy, and nervous. You decide, I said. That sentence mattered. Not, what should I tell them? Not, they're going to be upset. You decide. Lucy thought for a moment. Not today. I texted them. Mom visited. We are resting now. We'll invite visitors when Lucy is ready. Sarah immediately replied. So Mom gets special treatment. I did not answer. Jessica wrote, unbelievable. I did not answer. Chloe sent, can we at least see a picture? Lucy smiled. That's fine. We sent one photo. Then I turned off my phone. For 24 hours. My wife did not have to manage anyone else's feelings. That was the beginning of the revenge my sisters never expected. Not revenge through cruelty. Not revenge through public humiliation. Revenge through removing the comfort they had taken for granted. For the first month after Benjamin was born, we lived quietly. No giant Sunday dinners. No surprise visitors. No messages telling Lucy what to cook. If someone wanted to visit, they asked. If Lucy was tired, we said no. It sounds simple, but after years of bad habits, simple rules can feel revolutionary. My mother changed too. She came over once a week, usually with food she had cooked herself. She held Benjamin while Lucy slept and never acted as if she deserved anything in return. One afternoon I asked why she had changed so quickly. She looked at my son sleeping against her chest. Because I recognized the look on Lucy's face that night, she said. What look? The look of someone waiting for permission to stop. That sentence stayed with me. My sisters took longer. Chloe apologized first. She came alone, sat at our kitchen table, and admitted she had copied Sarah and Jessica, even when she knew the comments were hurting Lucy. I'm sorry, she said. Lucy asked, are you sorry because you missed the baby, or because you understand what you did? Chloe looked up. Both. Lucy nodded. That's honest. We let her back into our lives slowly. Jessica resisted longer. Sarah resisted longest. Then Thanksgiving arrived. My mother announced she was hosting, but she added one rule to the family group chat. Everyone who eats helps cook or clean. No exceptions. Sarah asked, is this because of David? Mom replied, no. It is because I should have done it years ago. Lucy did not want to go. I told her we did not have to. Then my mother called her personally. You will not work in my kitchen unless you want to, she said. You will come as my guest. Lucy finally agreed. Thanksgiving afternoon. We walked into the old house carrying Benjamin. The atmosphere was awkward. Chloe hugged Lucy. Jessica gave a careful hello. Sarah stayed near the dining room. Dinner was excellent, and for the first time since I had known Lucy, she ate while the food was hot. When the meal ended, she started to stand automatically. My mother touched her arm. No. Then she looked at my sisters. You three. Kitchen. Jessica laughed. You're still doing this? My mother raised one eyebrow. Jessica stood. Chloe followed. Sarah remained seated for a few seconds. Then she looked at Lucy, looked at me, and finally picked up 2 serving bowls. I stayed at the table with Lucy and Benjamin. From the kitchen, we heard my sisters arguing about where the containers were stored. Lucy leaned toward me and whispered, "That roasting pan is probably in there." I smiled. A minute later, Sarah called, "David, where does Mom keep the heavy scrubber?" I called back, "You'll figure it out." Lucy covered her mouth and laughed. That was our revenge. Not destruction. Not public humiliation. They simply had to carry the weight they had expected Lucy to carry for them. Later, Sarah found me on the porch. The air was cold and the street was quiet. After a long silence, she said, "I was jealous." I let her continue. "After Dad died, we protected you. Then Lucy came along, and I felt like she got the version of you we had built. I'm not something you own, Sarah." "I know." Her face changed. I was cruel to her. Wes, I thought if she kept proving herself, I'd eventually feel like she belonged. And did you? Sarah looked through the window at Lucy holding Benjamin. No. I kept moving the line. Before we left, she apologized to Lucy directly. Lucy accepted the apology without pretending the past had disappeared. Our relationship with my sisters never returned to what it had been. I am grateful for that. What we had before was not healthy. Now visits are planned. Nobody insults my wife as a joke. Nobody uses family history as a weapon. Nobody treats gratitude like debt. And if someone makes a mess at dinner, they help clean it. A few months later, I stood in our tiny kitchen at 2 in the morning warming a bottle for Benjamin. Lucy was asleep upstairs. I looked around at the narrow counters, cheap cabinets, and clean dishes beside the sink. We did not have the grand Victorian house anymore. But we had something better. Nobody in that house had to earn the right to rest. Nobody had to work for approval. Nobody had to stay silent to belong. Paula and I finally understood the lesson I should have learned years earlier. Protecting your family is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is noticing the person who keeps saying, "I'm fine." Sometimes it is asking why they are always the one cleaning while everyone else is sitting down. Sometimes it is confronting people you love and telling them that love does not give them permission to cross boundaries. Sometimes the best revenge is building a peaceful life where the old rules no longer have power. If I had to summarize my story, I would say this. I grew up believing loyalty meant never challenging my family. I married a gentle woman who tried so hard to earn their acceptance that she became responsible for everyone's comfort. I ignored the warning signs until I saw her 8 months pregnant, exhausted and alone at the kitchen sink. That night I finally defended her. The argument exposed resentment, jealousy, and manipulation. When I saw the messages my sisters had been sending her, I understood the problem was deeper than dirty dishes. Lucy and I moved out, created firm boundaries, and stopped rewarding disrespect. Over time, my mother changed, Chloe apologized, and eventually even Sarah admitted the truth. We did not destroy the family. We rebuilt our place in it on healthier terms. What did I learn? I learned that silence is not always peace. I learned that a person can smile while they are hurting. I learned that gratitude for your past should never require sacrificing your spouse in the present. I learned that marriage means choosing your partner publicly, not only privately. Most of all, I learned that a home is not the place where the loudest person gets control. A home is the place where the people you love are safe enough to say, "I'm tired," and know someone will care. The night I finally stood up for Lucy, I thought I was risking my family. In reality, I was saving the one I had promised to protect. And the most satisfying part was not watching my sisters wash their own dishes. It was watching my wife finally sit down without asking permission. Thank you for watching my story. If this story meant something to you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. If you had been in my place, would you have confronted your family sooner, or would you have tried to keep the peace?